I'm amazed to be here. This is extraordinary. We've heard this morning a series of presentations and discussions about many of the elements that I want to talk about, so I'm not quite sure what I should cover. We've heard about systems, we've heard about finance, we've heard about the SDGs, we've heard about the inspiration of nature for businesses. These are all things that we passionately believe in, and we are very, very keen to talk to you about a framework and an approach that we have adopted to try to accelerate the transition to a more regenerative and restorative economy that is that way by design. And that's what we talk about in the circular economy. We also have heard this morning about the importance of relationships. And for me to be here after many years of talking with people from the B Labs in Philadelphia and Oxford, talking with Gonzalo in Brazil, being involved in many of the events that the BMW Foundation has put on, being in Berlin with this group. It's amazing to be here today with everybody in the family in Chile. So I'm truly delighted to be here. We at the Ellen MacArthur Foundation, we absolutely believe in the B Labs, the B Corp, the Sistema B idea, and we have what I would argue is a completely complementary approach that is attempting to build massive directional momentum towards a restorative, regenerative economy. And I won't spend a lot of time talking about the concept of a circular economy because I think many of you already understand this. But it's an idea whose time has come because we are seeing in the linear economy the barriers, we're reaching the edges of possibility for treating natural systems as sinks. We're challenged with resource constraints in many industries. We can see that the finite resources on the planet that are being used in a thoroughly extractive and consumptive way are reaching the ends of that period. We no longer have the abundance of resources that we have had for many years. And the linear economy is everywhere. It's pervasive. We extract materials from natural systems, we turn them into products, we use them for increasingly short amounts of time, and then we dispose of them into landfill or incineration. New products means new materials. Trying to actually recycle at the end of the pipe, as we would say, returns very small yields because these products were never designed to be recycled. They're never designed to be separated and collected and reinserted into value chains. So it's an incredibly wasteful and extractive linear economy. And it's interesting, Gonzalo sent me a note this morning asking if he could use the slides that he showed, and I said, sure, they're not mine, they're Joachim Rockstrom's, but go ahead. The slides that show the acceleration of the economy, and it kicked off all in the 50s, but it really started to accelerate in the 70s. And this is part of it. It's what we have done since the 1950s, and particularly with materials like plastics, is we've normalized culturally disposability, and it's permeated everywhere. We use products in a throwaway way. We have shifted costs to natural systems. We're throwing products into natural sinks, and it's quite normal to think about single-use plastics. And it's really interesting when you do think about single-use plastics, where do you draw the line? Is it a straw? Is it a bag? Is it something that you use for food, or is it pretty much all plastics? We use them for a single time. Sometimes we use them for longer than others, but almost nothing that we produce in plastics is coming back into the value chain and being used at the same value again, and I'll show you some data on that. We talk about the butterfly diagram. It's a systems diagram. The concept of a circular economy, we think about technical materials and we talk about biological materials. And this framework that we've developed draws upon many other schools of thought. There's nothing particularly original in the idea of a circular economy. What we've tried to do is to encapsulate it in a way that people can understand and to demonstrate the economic rationale for the shift towards this system. The circular economy is really based on three principles: designing out waste and pollution, keeping materials in use at their highest value for as long as possible, and regenerating natural systems. That's the vision of a circular economy. And it's based on three key assumptions, or really their values as much as anything: that the economy needs to be distributed, it needs to be diverse, and it needs to be inclusive. The combination of these aspects of the economy, and these are only partial dimensions of an extremely complex idea. The economy includes financial economy, as we heard earlier today. The economy includes political economy. If you ask somebody what an economy is, you'll get different answers from different people. It's about GDP, it's about employment. This is one view into a very complex system. And these principles and assumptions are really very important, because what we can show is that through the work that we've done, that if you apply these principles, the economics of getting this right are astoundingly good. So I'll come back to a few examples of that, but just to say, what do we do? What's our role in this? We do two things, really. We develop and promote the idea of a circular economy. We do a lot of promotion, and we do a lot of insights and analysis work. But at the end of the day, what we're here to do is really what was talked about in the previous session. We're here to accelerate the transition. We wake up in the morning and we say, how can we get there faster? Every single day of the year, that's what we do. We say, how can we get there faster? What's the most accelerant way to get there? And we think it's a combination of things. It's a combination of engaging with the system. So we believe that if you want to shift a system, you need to engage with it. It's about building networks of relationships with incumbent companies, but also with startups, social enterprises, impact investment, the entire system. We need to engage with the system. So we're trying to shift incumbents, and we're also trying to promote innovators and disruptors, such as many of the B Corps. But we work with business, we work with government. We don't do prescriptive policy, but we work to inform governments around the world. We work in learning. We think it's absolutely crucial that we help to inspire a generation to think about a different economic model. And again, what we're on about is the economy writ large. We're about the entire economy, but we're coming into it through the materials economy. So we think the learning agenda is absolutely crucial, that students, the entire 20 to 30-year-old cohort in universities, they all get the basic idea of a circular economy and they're able to act on it. We also look at building tools, and I'll talk about one of those in a minute as well. Communication's absolutely crucial, and in some regards, communication for us is an extension of learning. If we're able to communicate basic messages and ideas to mass audiences that we're concerned about, for example, all of the designers on the planet, what's the basic concept of a circular economy through communications? They're on a learning journey, and many of them will draw themselves in deeper to understand more, and we want to help them in that journey. Insights and analysis, we've produced many reports over the years, 12 major ones. We do a lot of quantification of the economic benefits, and we also look at how do we build metrics and tools, how do we demonstrate that by improving the circularity of materials, it has a direct impact on the SDGs, on lowering the energy demands of the system and the like. So that's what we do in the insights part. And then finally, we want to do large-scale global demonstrators. And I want to just explain to you one example, which was the new plastics economy. We, in 2000 and... oh, it's got a very twitchy trigger. In 2013, we did our first exploration into the topic of plastics. In 2013 to 2015, we wanted to raise money through philanthropy, engage the entire value chain, and really try to understand what's going on with plastics as a low-value, high-volume material that's everywhere on the planet. Surely we must have a cohesive and coherent understanding of what the impacts of this are, what the opportunity are. So we mobilised a report. We called it the New Plastics Economy Report. We released it in Davos in 2015, and it received more media coverage than any report ever released at the World Economic Forum. In that report, we had the quote of, there will be more plastics in the ocean by weight than fish by 2050. Who's heard of that quote? Like about two-thirds of the room. We showed definitively that after 40 years of promoting recycling, only 2% of plastics produced in plastics packaging are going back in the value chain. So what we've been trying to date hadn't worked. So what we tried to do was to mobilise a campaign and approach with the entire value chain that did two things. One was to build public awareness. The second was to engage with governments around the solution, which is not just about single-use banning and landfill incineration taxes, infrastructure. It has to move right up to the front of the value chain, right up to the front of the system, and we have to redesign the system. So we work with governments to help them to understand that. And we also worked with a very large number of companies to commit to the upstream redesign of the plastic system. And what we did a few weeks ago, 2 weeks ago actually, in Bali, was to announce the global commitment, which really was a common vision for this system that everybody could innovate towards. And we said there were three things we have to do. We have to eliminate the unnecessary plastics from the system, which represents around about 30% of production to date. We have to innovate for better delivery systems of products for people that serve people's needs, but also recognise that we can't put products on the market that don't fit within a system. We can't put packaging on a market in developing markets that don't have systems to collect and sort and reprocess. We also have to look at the way in which we circulate. So we do need to look at infrastructure, we do need to harmonisation of materials, we do need to look at regulation to do that. We ended up with around about 290 companies signing this global commitment, and we got a tremendous amount of media coverage of it. This is a one-page ad we took out in the Financial Times, being held by Sarah, who does our graphics in-house. She's very proud of this bit of paper. But what it did was it garnered an enormous amount of media attention. Within 1 week of making this commitment, we had 500 press agencies and media outlets pick this up, with a total reach of 900 million people across the planet. So we're starting to bring the communications ideas into a very large audience who can start to then make the connection between upstream systems redesign ultimately and a system that can work. These are examples of the press coverage that it got, and it's just really to say the point that what we're trying to do is engage the system, use the system to start to make commitments, work with the system to make commitments that we can help them deliver, promote the front-running companies like the Unilevers, Danones and others who are very active in this space. And what we did in this commitment as well was preserve the right to raise the standards, the targets, the time-based meaningful targets. We can raise those over time as we learn and the system evolves. We can take other companies into the commitment, and we can continue to raise the bar on this whole topic globally. So that approach of framing this as a way of getting into the complex system that the economy is by focusing on plastics as a demonstration case has for us been extraordinarily successful. We're doing similar work in fashion, and we're doing similar work in food. We're looking at cities and the role of cities in the global food system. And they all follow the same pattern. It's a one-year piece of research that involves all of the actors from across the system, a 3-year mobilisation of initiatives off the back of that, and a 10-year program in its entirety. And they're about $25 million apiece to do these types of initiatives globally, so they're big. And again, they're funded by philanthropic money and by corporate money, and we did that quite deliberately so that we had a governance over the system that kept it on the straight and narrow. And we also are working very much behind the scenes now to build data systems and metrics and measures so that over the next 7 years we can track this not only in plastics but also in fashion and in food as we get there, to ensure that the companies are not only getting rewarded for making commitments and innovating towards it, but we're bringing much more transparency into the system and we're showing the regenerative nature of it. I would reference you to the design guide. We launched a global innovation challenge, a $2 million challenge that resulted in another $150 million of innovation money coming into the plastics topic. And we said that we needed to get to designers. We need to help them to understand how to think about designing for systems. And the design guide that we developed with IDEO and a number of other universities globally is a very good reference and resource tool for you all to use, and I would encourage you to take a look at it. Just one more comment on communications. We're working very actively with many media partners now to get the message of a circular economy out much more widely. We're looking at how we can use topics like plastics as a gateway into other topics and other related circular economy issues. And we're also looking at how we can give public agency in the transition to a circular economy. And that's very, very different to saying, how do we educate the public as consumers to reduce their impact in a linear system? What we're trying to do is to help people understand we need to transition the entire system towards something that's regenerative. And through the communications work we do with partners like Nat Geo and Condé Nast and the like, we're wanting to scale that. And we run a number of significant online events. We do an annual summit, which attracts 100,000 people audience over the course of the year with the replays. And what's going on right now today, in fact, this 3-week period is the Disruptive Innovation Festival, which is an online platform for showing people what's possible, for providing a platform to promote the good ideas that are out there, and many of them are from organisations like yourselves. And we launched this last Monday, 7-8 days ago now, 9 days ago, and we've had 300,000 people actually come to the site and watch the materials. So this is all about scaling the reach substantially. And just to close, I would say that for us it's been a surprising journey in some ways. We took the concept of a circular economy to the World Economic Forum in 2012, and if you'd gone online at that point and done a Google search, you would have seen a few hundred references. If you go online now, there's around about 50 million. So what we have shown through our work in the circular economy and in our work in plastics is that it is possible to mobilise global systems change. We're on a journey now that is empowered by digital technologies that we think is truly transformative and extraordinarily powerful, and we're very keen to work with all of you to bring it to reality. Thank you.